My name is Lucia Modesto. I'm a Character TD Supervisor at PDI DreamWorks. What does that mean? Basically, I supervise the rigging of the characters and some props in the movie. I've been there for 15 years, worked on Ants, Shrek, all the Shrek movies, How to Train Your Dragon, and Madagascar. Been working on all these movies, sometimes as a character TD, sometimes as a supervisor. Last movie I made was Megamind. I was supervisor on Megamind, and it's just a really fun job. The rigging part of the production is, what does that mean? Is the animators have to animate something. We built that something. That's basically it. We built the digital puppet. So modeling creates a model. I mean, art department will create a character. The character designer will draw something or sculpt something. Modeling will create that model, but it's an inanimate model. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just sitting there. We get that model and we turn it into a digital puppet. We put joints in there that it's equivalent to building the skeleton inside. We put the animation control so the animator can actually bend those joints, because you have a joint and you say, oh, rotate in X, rotate in Y, rotate in Z. Animators don't like that. They like controls like bend, twist, and side. So we put the controls in and we name the controls so the animators feel comfortable using those controls. After we have all the skeleton moving with all the animation controls, we start to build the deformation. I mean, you have to bend the character. When you bend your wrist, you get little wrinkles on the inside of your wrist, and this area stretches because it hits the bone. So we built all that. We make it, you know, if you just bend something, it might look like a rubber hose. We don't want the rubber hose. We want to have sometimes to have that bone in there. Sometimes we want to have those wrinkles. It's a very cartoony show. We don't want that. But then that's where the the designers and us work a lot together. Is how does this character look? How does the elbow look? How pointy is the elbow? How round is the elbow? And that's the stuff we build on every single part of the body. Of if it has muscles, how the muscles work. If they bulge when the arms bend, we're not doing that. Depends on the movie. We have on Megamind, we have the big superhero. He had those big muscles that would automatically bulge if the arm was bent. Animators could animate that on top. Usually we don't have that on most of the characters because you don't need that. But in certain characters we go and build that. So it's basically creating all those controls, creating the shape of the character, making sure the silhouettes are agreeable, and no matter what the animators do, that the character won't break. That's basically what we do. We also do sometimes hair, some clothing, but that's the extra. Basically we do the skin of the character. Well, it's like three departments kind of. At the point we have to create a character that is animatable. That's the whole thing. It has to be able to act. It has to go there and do what the director wants the character to do. So you start with the character designer and production designer, art director, all working together, and they build the model. On the process of building a model, we're already looking at it, and we look. Sometimes we're going to say, okay, this is going to. Sometimes they make characters with really short legs. Really short legs, if they're as thick as long, it's very hard to bend. There's no space to go anywhere, the flesh of the character. So sometimes, I would say 90% of the times the legs always get a little bit longer, because then they realize, okay, it's cool in a 2D drawing, but when you start moving it around, it might not look that good. So, you know, we point out those things. We go, okay, these are areas that it might be a little bit problematic. On some characters, for instance, some robots that on Megamind we had the minion character that was a fish inside of a robot body. The first design, the character could not really bend the arm because it was a piece of metal here, a piece of metal here. The moment he bent, they would hit each other. It's not flesh. We cannot make it get out of the way because it's going to look weird because it's supposed to be metal. So in those cases, we went back to the art director and we said, okay, these areas we are seeing problems with the range of motion that animation wants. Because in the mind of the arts department, they were saying it's a robot that cannot move very well. So it's okay if it doesn't move very much. And then the animation department said, no, we want to, he needs the range of motion. And we were caught in between, so we're the ones that, we're the diplomat in the middle. They go, okay, we have to have more range of motion, the design will have to change. And so there's that back and forth. So sometimes they say, no, this element is very important. So we keep the element and we try to compromise something. Sometimes animation will have to compromise and not get the range because art really wants, but it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of back and forth in there. So, and eventually it works, you know, it's sort of an easy process, but it's a little iterative, you know, it keeps going around and around. Well, yeah, that happens a lot of, sometimes we look at things and say, okay, this character will have to do things, and we go, okay, we're going to have these problems. So we're a little paranoid. We sometimes over-engineer things. But also because usually, especially in animation, when we start, and we start way before the other departments do in the regular production, because we have to have the characters ready for animation start. So that's kind of the official start of production, is when layout and animation start. But we start earlier. The story is not there yet. So we don't know exactly what the characters are doing. We don't have all the answers. Sometimes we ask, okay, is this character going to be like, is he always going to have his shoe on? Do we have to build toes? And they say, no, always going to have a shoe. We don't trust that, absolutely not. Because that happened on Shrek 2. The original Shrek had shoes on, he never had toes. Then we started Shrek 2. It was exactly the same rig. We didn't redo it for Shrek 2. And then suddenly in the middle they go, oh, Shrek is on the beach. It was like 2 shots. He's on the beach and his shoes are off. And he said, great, he doesn't have a foot. He only had a shoe. He was built with a shoe. So what we ended up doing is that we made a second pair of pants for Shrek. Pants. They were just legs with feet. And we removed his old pants and we put those pants on him. The toes didn't move, they were just modeled in. It was 2 shots, no one noticed. When we started Shrek 3, that we rebuilt the whole rig, I said, I don't care if we ever see his toes, we're going to rig those toes. We had a big shot on the movie with the toes way on camera wiggly, and I really lobbied for that shot. But it's something that happens also on one of, I can't remember which one of the two or three Shrek, that, you know, generic characters, the other characters on the background, again, that, oh no, you'll never see them with the shirt off. So you don't have to, you know, be worried about the deformations on the armpits and all that, because they always have clothes on top. We said, no, we're going to do it the right way. Right at the end of the movie, they wanted to have a shot that they had like 5 guys with their shirts off with Shrek stenciled on their torsos. And the producer came to me and said, can we have the shirts off? I said, sure. And it's good to be paranoid at that point. But because of that, we end up over-engineering. We do. Like, all the characters can wiggle their toes. We never see the toes of all the characters, but we put them in.
Just in case.
Just in case, because if later they say, oh, we want to do that, it's way more expensive to go back and try to build that in. When you're, you know, usually you don't have the crew that you had on the beginning, because we start with like 15, 20 people. At the end of the movie, we're 1 or 2. We can get to the end of the movie when we have like 1 or 2 character TDs, and suddenly we have to rig toes on a bunch of characters. We don't have the manpower. There's no time to do it. So it's better to do that when you have 15 to 20 people available, and you rig that. It's not, I mean, it's a little bit of work, but if you have it beforehand, it's in there. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. And if a director comes and say, okay, I need it, it's there. So it's good to be paranoid sometimes.